Всем привет! I'm Mariana, this is Impression Blend, and today I am back with another weekly blend reviewing this week's most exciting releases. I have 3 very different movies to talk about, all of which have something interesting to offer, and all of which are theatrical releases. Unfortunately, the streaming options did not impress me this week. But if you're planning to venture out and watch something on the big screen, let me tell you what's good. Of course, the first thing we have to talk about is the new James Bond film, No Time to Die. It feels like we've been waiting forever for this one, and let me just say, this was absolutely worth the wait. I don't really think there's a point in me describing the plot. It's a spy action film from the Bond franchise. What do you think happens? Yes, we saw Bond walk away from it all at the end of Spectre, so we do start with him and Madeline enjoying their time together, but of course the bliss does not last too long. Soon, Bond finds himself involved in more shootouts, car chases, and narrow escapes as he's trying to fight the bad guys. And all of it is so much fun. If you were not a big fan of Spectre and you're a bit concerned going into No Time to Die, let me put your mind at ease. This movie is really good. Cary Fukunaga is our director here, and he, along with his co-writers Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge of all people, made this film into something special. It's a really good blend of the old and the new, with some classic Bond elements and tropes mixed with fresh ideas and characters. Give Ana de Armas her own spin-off, please, because she is wonderful, so refreshing, and this was so not enough. It's a complex storyline with a winding path to the main villain, and the stakes are very high for the world in general and for Bond on a personal level. That personal emotional layer is a big reason why I, along with so many other people, responded so well to Craig's iteration of the character, and No Time to Die keeps this as a very important part of the overall story. In many ways, it's a culmination of all of his previous 4 films, and we finally see a completed arc for Bond's character. I found this film to be very emotionally impactful, more than I expected, to be honest, and I think anyone who has grown to care for Craig's Bond over the course of his 15 years in this role is going to be affected by this story. But this isn't to say that it's all about the character and emotions. There is plenty of action in the film, and it looks fantastic. In fact, you're only going to have to wait about 15 minutes until things start getting heated, so if you're here to see Bond in action, No Time to Die will not let you down. If I had to pick a favorite action sequence, I would have to go with the one that happens in the foggy forest. It may not be as flashy as some of the other ones in the film, but it looks so eerie, there is so much tension within it, and the way it's shot is absolutely stunning. I was blown away by that scene, and believe me, there are quite a few great action sequences to choose from here. There are 2 main points of criticism I have here which go hand in hand with one another. The first thing is the runtime. At 2 hours and 43 minutes, this is the longest Bond film to date, and you can definitely feel it. It's not like it's slow, but it does occasionally get lost in its own story, and what's weird is that even with all that runtime, it still manages to leave some things and characters underdeveloped. It's safe to say that there are points at which the time could have been used better, and the biggest thing that needed more work is the villain. That is, unfortunately, my main issue with the film. It takes a very long time to get to Rami Malek's character, and at that point we have to get to the final act, and there's just no time to really develop him into an interesting, memorable character. Yes, he does pop up here and there, either physically or in conversation, but really the film does not address him in a meaningful way until much later. Which is a shame because the rest of the film is really good, but as this is a Bond film, a great villain is a very important piece piece of the puzzle. Had they nailed the villain here, this would have undoubtedly been one of the best entries in the entire Bond franchise. No Time to Die is Daniel Craig's final 007 film, and I still can't believe we won't see him in this role again. Of course, I can rewatch his films as much as I want, but it really does make me sad that there will never be a new one with him, because until I saw Daniel Craig in this role, I never really cared much for the Bond films. He is and will always be my Bond. Even though I did not love No Time to Die as much as Casino Royale and Skyfall, which, to be fair, would have been difficult to achieve, those are among my all-time favorite films, I still had an amazing time with it, and it's a great final chapter for Daniel Craig as Bond. I'm giving No Time to Die a very confident 8 out of 10, and I am really looking forward to watching this film again while it's still playing in theaters. The latest A24 release is the Icelandic dark folktale Lamb, which I was really looking forward to as well. The trailer had this folk horror feel to it, the tone seemed definitely spooky, and I need to adjust your expectations here because this is not a horror movie. Right from the very beginning, the story feels like a folktale. Once upon a time, in the wilds of Iceland, there lived a childless couple. They farmed together, tended sheep together, respected and loved each other, but there was something missing until one day, one of their sheep gave birth to a very unusual lamb. The husband and wife took the lamb in to raise and take care of as their own child, seeing this as a gift from fate and a second chance at happiness. Or was it even a lamb at all? See what I mean? This is not a horror movie. There certainly are some darker elements weaved into it, a few scenes that feel very sinister, but as a whole, the film isn't meant to be scary. It's just a darker folktale because it's aimed at adults, not children. The tone is eerie, the visuals are atmospheric, and it's beautifully shot. If you're someone who's into artistic, Nordic slow burn films, Lamb is really going to be a treat. The director achieves this wonderful style that's simultaneously whimsical and unsettling. There are also plenty of metaphors and Easter eggs in there if you're into that type of thing. We all know I am. There are some clear parallels to the Bible. Those are probably the most obvious, but if you pay attention to the books they're reading, things referenced in the dialogue, and the specifics of visual storytelling, it really adds to the experience because everything you see or hear is there for a reason. Thematically, Lamb is an intriguing meditation on motherhood, found family, and grief, all of this tied in with our relationship with nature. That last point is incredibly important to the film, and it's not a coincidence the story is set in the stunning rural Iceland, really stripping human existence to the basics. As the lead actress Númera Pace puts it, we are all animals, yet we are moving further away from nature. We are driven in our lives by our animal natures. If this is something you find interesting, this movie is absolutely for you. However, if you prefer a more clear, straightforward story, you're probably just going to be left wondering what is the point of all this weirdness, especially considering the pacing and the surreal elements of the film. This is where I think people might struggle the most here. The surreal, metaphoric folktale is not in a hurry, and even those who will love it will not be able to deny that it's deliberately very slow. You really feel the runtime here. To me, it felt even longer than it actually was. And while it builds up to a satisfying, haunting ending, you will need to be patient with the build-up. There were things I loved about Lamb. I already mentioned the tone and the metaphoric nature of it. I also really enjoyed the chapter structure and how it played into the layers of the story. But in the end, I did want a bit more from it, and I wish it went even further, either with its themes or with the darker elements. I really do think that the film would have been stronger and more visceral if it leaned more into horror, like the trailer implied it would. For my rating, I'm going with a 7 out of 10. I do think there will absolutely be an audience for this film that will love every minute of it, but for me personally, while I did think it was good, I just was left wanting more. Finally, I want to talk about Mass, which is a film that's going to so unfairly fly under the radar, it's not even funny. You might remember I saw and loved it at Sundance earlier this year. Check out this video where I briefly talk about it. And back then, I was sure it was going to be a big one when it comes to the awards conversation, that it was going to show up at other festivals, that there was going to be buzz leading up to the release, and nothing. On some level, I get it. I don't think a film like Mass is easy to sell to the public. For the most part, it's a movie about 4 grieving parents on different sides of an awful tragedy who are having a very difficult conversation. The parents of the victim meeting the parents of the perpetrator face to face. That's it. That's the movie. It's heavy, it's tense, and as you can imagine, it will rip your heart out. There are no flashbacks here. Mass is focused on those 4 people and their conversation. It's all about the storytelling, the characters, and the emotions. It all hangs on the writing and the performances, and those performances are some of the best of the year. Written and directed by Fran Kranz, yes, that Fran Kranz, and it's his directorial debut.
I want a reality TV show.
Mass is starring Jason Isaacs, Martha Plimpton, Ann Dowd, and Reed Birney. Each of them delivers a brilliant, heart-wrenching performance, and each of them has their own moment to shine and break your heart. The tension in the room is palpable, and so is the pain, to the point of making you feel like you're watching an interaction you shouldn't be there for, because it feels so real. The film overall approaches the difficult topic of a school shooting with a lot of nuance and a lot of patience. It does not aim to judge or moralize. Instead, what it wants to do is start a conversation. It looks at a problem and it shows the devastation the lack of solutions causes for regular people, the tragedy it can result in, and the lack of understanding that surrounds it. It touches on quite a few issues and on how we as humans try to find a way to justify things because we believe what we want to believe, because we want to hope for the best. And then when something bad does happen, we desperately look for something or someone to blame. It's a film about holding on to pain as well as the struggle to reach some sort of closure. It's a lot to take in. I rewatched it for this video for the first time since Sundance. I don't know why I did that to myself, to be honest. It's not like I forgot how devastating it was or how amazing the performances are. But in case you're wondering, it's just as effective and as gut-wrenching the second time around. Mass is undoubtedly one of the most powerful and effective films of the year. There's a reason why almost everyone who saw it loved it and found it incredibly impactful. It's not flashy, the setup is simple, but it just hits really hard. For that and for the outstanding performances, I think it deserves a 9 out of 10, as much as it's not your traditional entertaining experience and not a film I ever want to watch again. And on that cheerful note, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you're planning to watch this weekend in the comments below. A special thank you to all of my patrons for supporting me on Patreon, with an extra special thank you to the patrons whose names are on the screen right now. But as always, I hope everyone is having a wonderful day, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Всем пока!